Hi everybody, happy Freyja's Day, or happy Friday the 13th. Let's talk a little bit about this sacred, beautiful Norse goddess as we celebrate her on her specific day and as I wrangle a cat. Friday the 13th, it is, you just saying those words, saying that day for a very long time in history evoked fear, struck fear in the hearts of so many people. It's associated with a lot of negativity and evil and witchcraft. It's also, in some people's traditions, associated with something wonderful and empowering and sacred and witchcraft. Let's talk about it a little bit. Freyja is a Norse goddess. There are two camps in the Norse pantheon, Norse myths, and she is a part of the Vanir group. She is a goddess that she's very multifaceted, meaning one could petition her for so many different reasons. She's over so many different aspects of the human condition. And where we get our current day of the week, Friday, is from Freyja's day. She is a goddess who is about love, beauty, sensuality, sexuality, passion, magic, witchcraft, female empowerment, desire, and also death and war. So as you can see, that's kind of all over the map, but she is goddess of all of those different things. And in the Norse pantheon, she takes half of the slain warriors to her realm. Odin takes one half to Valhalla, and she takes the other to her realm of Vanir. She is the leader of the Valkyries, the female warriors. When we see the winged helmet, forgive me, you guys, this feline, but at this point, if you watch my videos, you should be somewhat used to this. So let's talk about things that are sacred to Freyja, since I literally have a cat going nuts in my lap, and one of the most primary things that is sacred to Freyja is cats. She drives a beautiful golden chariot and is often depicted with beautiful, long, flowing golden hair, a cloak with falcon's feathers, and the chariot is driven and pulled by two cats. Now, in some myths, it's pulled by two wild boar, but oftentimes it's pulled by two cats. So all of those animals are animals that are sacred to Freyja. The falcon, any felines, from domestic house cats to lions are sometimes associated with Freyja, and wild boar. Flowers that are associated with her are dandelions, marigolds, chamomile, any yellow flowers, or yellow and white flowers are oftentimes associated with her. One particular stone or crystal is amber. And it comes from a story where there was a necklace, Brisingamen, and I'm not extensively well versed in Norse magic, so I will leave a couple of links down below for you to check out what some other people have to say from their blogs and their research. But Brisingamen is a beautiful necklace that there was some foolishness with Loki, as there often is, and that necklace is gold with amber. And so those two metals, the metal and the stone of amber, is associated and very sacred to Freyja. It's said that her tears, when she was extremely heartbroken, her tears flowed out as liquefied gold, and when they fell into the sea, they solidified and turned into amber, and that's where we get the resin that is amber, according to the myths. So she is, as you can see, she's a lover, she's a fighter, she's empowered, she's about all of these wonderful multitude of different characteristics. She is mistress of magic. So you can kind of see where already negative connotations that surround Friday the 13th specifically come from, just given the establishment and deconstructing or dismantling respect and reverence and worship of goddess energy. And when it comes to specifically the number 13, I think that 13, there's a whole fear around the number 13. It's called, and I'm probably mispronouncing this, but I believe it's called triskaidekaphobia. Hold on, let me refer to my notes. I believe it's pronounced triskaidekaphobia. And this number 13. Now, some people believe that in order to have a full witch's coven, it is 13 members. And so when you put this together with Freyja, the goddess worship, mistress of magic, putting together with the 13, a goddess who is associated with cats. Well, black cats on Friday the 13th, bad luck. You can kind of see where over time these stories might have originated from, that led to so much misunderstanding and maligning of female empowerment and energy. I also feel that with the number 13, you know, again, with all of the fear, I was just recently in my niece's elevator in Vancouver, and there's no number 13. And still to this day, a lot of buildings will not have a floor 13 because it's associated with so much bad luck. Now, in addition to, somewhere along the way, they said that 13 was the number for a full witch's coven. I think where that may have even stemmed from before that came from Judeo-Christianity. When we look at Christ and the Last Supper, well, Christ had 12 disciples. And at the Last Supper, where they were all gathered together, and then one uninvited guest turned up, Judas, number 13. And well, we know how that ended up. So you can see a lot of negative associations with the number 13. Before that, interestingly enough, in Norse mythology, there's a very, very similar story of events that took place at a dinner, a great feast, where there were 12 Norse gods and goddesses that were gathered together. And an uninvited guest, Loki, came and began to create a scene. An altercation broke out, and ultimately he murdered one of the members in attendance. So this whole thing about number 13 being this evil, negative thing associated with conspiracy, negativity, murder, evil energy, malicious intentions, it all comes together to, for many people, equate Friday the 13th is a particularly unlucky day. For those who celebrate and who are witches, for us, it's a day actually of good luck, because for us, the familiar, the witch's familiar, is oftentimes, definitely not exclusively, but oftentimes cats. The shape-shifting that it was said that witches could shape-shift, and one of the primary animals was cats. Many witches do own cats, particularly black cats, because the black being able to hide under the cover of darkness and to not be found out or not be seen, particularly when shape-shifting from human into feline form. So you can kind of see where all of this ties in, ties in to having very conflicting opinions about Friday the 13th. Now, obviously, as a witch, for me, it's a day of good luck. And I always find it interesting when in my personal life or my personal practice, let alone in spiritual traditions in general, when we see things lining up before there was prior knowledge, meaning I always had a positive feeling about Friday the 13th, even as a little girl, and hearing, oh, it's the witch's day. Even before I understood what that meant, and growing up in a Judeo-Christian home, that always felt like something like that was really good. I always, as a 3-year-old, one of the things on my birthday list was I wanted a black cat. So it's kind of interesting how some things are just embedded in you, in your spirit, a sense of comfortability or a sense of knowing. So on this sacred Friday the 13th, I lit up a candle, and for me, let's talk a little bit about Freyja and her energy. I do not, how do I say this? While I do not have extensive knowledge of the Norse pantheon, it is a group of spirits in a practice that I do have some familiarity with. Actually, the first goddess that spoke to my heart, that came to me, I was astonished, was Freyja. And I was confused by this. It didn't make sense to me. But I trusted what came to my spirit, what I felt. I trusted an elder witch that I knew at that time who was giving me confirmation before I even discussed this with her. And then lo and behold, several years later, it being confirmed with a part of my heritage and my lineage that I'd never known anything about for decades, that makes sense how it's possible that, at least for ancestral reasons, the Norse gods and goddesses would have taken a liking to me and want me to acknowledge them at the very least, let alone work with them. And I can see in my head with such clarity this gorgeous candle that I had dressed specifically for Freyja many years ago, and how she helped me so much to find courage and strength when I was going through an incredibly challenging time, and to find my personal power, to find the warrior within me that I did not know existed at that time. To light a fire under that Aries moon that I was always confused by. So let's talk a little bit about some things that are sacred to Freyja. Let me show you her rune. And again, it's interesting how spirit will do and move things to line up in our lives in a way that can only be attributed to spirit and definitely not logic. Back in the spring, I was at a person's shop and did a presentation. I'm sorry, I didn't do a presentation. I was there for their spring solstice celebration. And I met a guest that they had there who was an incredibly precious, just a very gentle, kind elderly gentleman or older gentleman. And he and I struck up a conversation and he's just a lovely person. And he told me that he wanted to gift something to me because he is a person who follows and regularly honors and works with the Norse spirits. And he had a gift for me that Freyja told him to give me. I was at this event through the lens of my work and spirituality as a voodooisant, never mentioning my witchcraft per se, and definitely not specifically my work with Freyja, with whom I don't work very often, but my connection to her And he told me, he said, I'm going to gift you a set of runes that I carved with my own hands, because Freyja is telling me that she wants you to have this, and it's time for you to start looking into working with the runes. And this is the beautiful pouch that he made, and this is something I will treasure. And the runes that he gifted me came from a tree that was struck by lightning. And he went and, if you guys can see them, collected wood and carved out, how beautiful, the runes on this tree that was from a storm where he lives, where lightning struck. So there's a lot of love and care and very powerful energy in this pouch of runes. So I pulled out Freyja's rune, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing. Oh dear, did I just pick it up? Freyja. Goodness me, I think I just picked it up. Let me see if I can quickly put my hands on it. So while I'm looking for it, I'll tell you a little bit about runes. While Freyja has her own specific rune, Freyja, though she is an incredibly powerful mistress of magic, the runes were actually given to Odin while he hung from the tree Yggdrasil for 9 days. Here we go. So this is Freyja's rune, Freyja. So to honor her today, I carved her rune on a small votive candle that I have that smells absolutely beautiful, and it was created with the intention of empowerment, confidence, but while still having that sense of calm. And given some things that I'm recently experiencing, that is something that I definitely need. Excuse me. And today could not be a more perfect day to light a candle, acknowledge her, give her my respect, and to tap into that energy within myself and ask her if she would lend me some of that from her. So let's just go over a couple of things that are associated, Freyja is associated with. She is the goddess of love, beauty, sensuality, sexuality, desire, passion, magic, witchcraft, also war and empowerment. So as you can see, she's so multifaceted. There's so many different reasons that you could go to her. She's a fierce protectress, particularly in any situation, but particularly when a woman has to be a warrior, particularly when there is any injustice or a male energy trying to be disempowering to a woman. Freyja is wonderful to call on for that, or just tapping into our own personal power to fight whatever battles, metaphorically, or maybe literally, as the case may be. So, you know, again, sensuality, sexuality, beauty, or F around and find out. She takes half of the slain warriors to her realm. Half go to the Aesir, which is Odin's realm, and the other half of the warriors that are viewed as having died an honorable death are taken to her realm, the Vanir. She is queen of the Valkyries. Things that are associated with her are, well, flowers are daisies, marigolds, chamomile, buttercups, any yellow flowers, I would say, but those particular flowers, and I've definitely worked with her with marigolds specifically. You can give her honey, that is very sacred to her, and mead or cider, all of those things. Strawberries are sacred to Freyja. Any kind of things for adornment and beauty, so makeup. For me, her colors are more of orange, gold, amber, that kind of color, which is why I've specifically chosen some of what I have on today. Now, other people I've seen where they associate her with different shades of blues and green. For me, she does not feel like that at all. But if that's how she speaks to you, she will speak to you should you choose to work with her in the ways that she decides to speak to you. But those are the colors that I associate with her. Let me see here. Oh, honeysuckle. Honeysuckle is another flower that I associate with her, as well as jasmine. Her metal is gold, and the stone I associate with her, definitely citrine, honey calcite, orange calcite, and particularly amber. There is a story that she had a necklace. It's the very abbreviated version of the story. There's a gorgeous necklace that she really, really wanted, and it's called Brisingamen. So I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, forgive me. So necklaces that have gold, even brass, I would say, or amber stones in them would be a wonderful way to honor her or to connect with her energy. The reason why gold and amber, one of the stories is that when she was very heartbroken, if I'm not mistaken, because of Odin, and her tears came out and flowed as liquefied gold. And when they dropped and fell into the sea, they solidified as amber. So that's why that metal and that stone is sacred to her. So if you wanted to create an altar space, any of these things would be appropriate. I would also say mirrors. Mirrors are something I would use with Freyja as well. So when we look at Friday the 13th, Freyja's day, and why it is thought of as with so much negativity and fear, I think a lot of it is because of the divine feminine and the popularity that Freyja had, and that sense of, witchcraft and feminine empowerment and confidence. And all the way to this day, some people, again, some elevators will not have floor number 13 in it. For me, it's a day of all the wonderful things that are associated with being a witch, and most specifically Freyja. So I lit a beautiful amber colored candle that smells like honeysuckle and just a very beautiful floral, slightly sweet fragrance, and put it in an amber colored, I don't have another one around here, an amber colored orange, more orange than amber colored votive holder. And for me as a reader, because everything with me comes back to tarot somehow, she is associated with the Queen of Wands. There we are. So in the tarot, she is the Queen of Wands. And I think in the Hanson Roberts, this is a perfect depiction of Freyja being, a woman who is Norse, Scandinavian, the blonde hair, the blue eyes, as she should be, sat on a throne, the image of a cat just here, and the sunflower that I would definitely say would be associated with her. And again, those colors. And I could definitely see where one would use red associated with Freyja. For me, I could see that. Again, it's more of the gold, amber, orange. And the Queen of Wands in tarot has many of the qualities of Freyja. passion, nurturing our passions, our sensuality, our creativity. But if you've seen a Queen of Wands who's gotten her temper up, it is nothing to be taken lightly. So on this sacred Friday the 13th, on Freyja's day, I wish all of you that every ounce of good luck and blessings come your way. Hail Freyja. And I will see you all in the next video. Blessed Friday the 13th.